In this video, I'm going to show how I use Google Gemini to help with my thinking, specifically around rubric and sort of cut down the time when it comes to creating rubrics for assessments. I'm going to use an English 10 class as my class, and I'm going to go ahead and get started by just typing my first prompt into this box here. What I'm stating is create a rubric that assesses Minnesota ELA standards. I've listed them there. The rubric should have 5 different proficiency levels. Then I click enter or the submit. And it goes ahead and finds those standards, kicks out a brief explanation of what the proficiency levels mean, and then I get the 3-line rubric here. So this is a good jumping off point. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to start revising. And so one of the things that I want to do is I want to revise with the standards down the left side and the proficiency levels across the top. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And once again, you'll see the same information pop up. Now a little more clarity. And so I want to continue to try to dial in that clarity. So I'm going to go ahead and revise again. And I use that language, revise the proficiency language with exceeds, proficient, developing, beginning, and insufficient evidence. I'm going to go ahead and submit. And so now I can see that across the top, I've got those different proficiency levels in the language that we use in SPPS and here at Washington. Obviously, this is still way too much information in this rubric, so I am going to keep on revising. My next step, as I think about making this more student-friendly, I'm going to go ahead and start out again with revise. Revise the descriptors to begin with affirmative, quote, I can statements, and make appropriate for 10th grade English language learners. I'm going to go ahead and submit. And now we can see that some of the language has changed. Again, here are all 3. But that's still not where I want it. Way too long. So I'm going to go ahead and put in another prompt that I would like to revise the descriptors by reducing the word count by 50%. So as I look at my revised rubric now, I feel like I'm on the right track, but I'm still thinking that this is too long, way too long. So I'm going to go ahead and revise the descriptors by reducing the word count by another 25%. And so this is going to get me close to where I want to be so that I can take a look with my PLC. For the sake of this exercise, I'm going to go ahead and say that I am good with the bulk of what's here, and I am ready to export it. And so I want to do a little more work, but I'm going to do it in a space where now I am in complete control and I'm no longer using AI. So I'm going to go ahead and select Export to Sheets. So Google Sheets is going to go ahead and open up, create a new spreadsheet for me. And what I want to do is open this up so I can read it a little bit better. So I'm going to highlight everything. I'm going to go to Format, Wrapping, and Wrap. And so now I can better see what is in each of these cells. So what I like about my rubric so far, thinking about Schoology rubrics, is that over here on the left, I've got the standard benchmark, I've got the actual standard language, and then breaking it down from exceeding proficiency all the way down to insufficient evidence. So now what I'm going to do with my PLC is I'm going to start going through and just taking a look at the language and what is written, because I don't want to put all my faith in Google Gemini. So as I look at this row here, there's a couple things that I'm not a big fan of and that I don't want in there for students to see. So I cannot write a clear argument. Well, maybe I didn't this time, but I don't want to say that I cannot write a clear argument. So I might change this to, I did not write a clear argument. obviously the rubric is going to be pretty long. So one option that I like is, as a teacher, I like to take students through the rubric at the beginning of a unit. And so what I might do is go ahead and get rid of those items and just get this down to, I did not write a clear argument. And then as I go through the rubric in class with the students, I might say, for the beginning level, this is maybe what you're missing, right? Your reasoning is hard to follow. I don't consider, or I'm not considering what my reader knows. I don't have the details. I don't explain them. So I have the option. I can put all the information in the rubric here, or maybe I'm just going to get this down more bare bones and then be able to go through the rubric with students. That's a great note-taking opportunity as well. Something I like that Google AI did right here, my work looks like a first draft and has many mistakes. If I'm a student, that's something that maybe I don't want to hear, but I do want to hear as I'm trying to get better. My work looks like a first draft, because there is a good chance that perhaps, this standard is about revising, that this was a first draft. The student did not take advantage of all of the time in class or out of class to create this draft. So again, for the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to say that I am good with this rubric and I am ready to put it into Schoology. When I create a rubric in Schoology, most of the time I like to do it in resources so that it just stays there. I can organize it. I can move it around from year to year and add it to courses. So this is where I like to begin. So in my resources, I'm just going to go ahead and select Add Resources, Add Rubric, and we're going to call this English 10 Argument. And when you start to create a rubric, Schoology defaults to 4 proficiency levels. If you've ever made a rubric in Schoology before and tried to edit it and change the scoring numbers and the descriptors right in here, you know what a pain in the ass it can be. You do some work and it moves it around. It's really annoying. And so, like I said, if you've done that, you know what I'm talking about. So here's a little workaround for that. I delete all of these boxes except for one. So I'm starting with one proficiency box. And so in here, this is the point value. And to determine the point value, I'm going to use my trusty multi-line rubric converter, for which I will put a link into this video. So this shows the math behind multi-standard rubrics. The math has been broken down for you, which is something that I need a lot of help with. So now I can just refer to this. So insufficient evidence is worth 10. And so I'm going to go 10 points. And then I'm going to go to my next line. And that is 21.3. And I'm going to do my next one for proficient, which is 25.3. Or that's developing, excuse me. Here's proficient, 29.3. And 33.3. The standard I'm going to use, I'm going to start here at the top. If I wanted to, I could put this entire standard in, but I am going to go over that with students in class, so I am just going to put the actual benchmark number right there, leave the description blank. So now I need to copy and paste the different descriptions that I created using AI and this Google Sheet into this document. So I'm going to start there. And I'm just going to work my way through, which is a little tedious. It would be great if Schoology had a way that you could just feed in a rubric and it would format it, but they don't. So I've got my first standard created, all broken down, and I'm ready to add standards 2 and 3. And so in order to do that, I'm going to hit this criteria button because I am inputting the standards. If you wanted to add actual standards, Schoology has those as well, and they are in here in learning objectives. So you could go Common Core, or you could go state standards, Minnesota. That's up to you. But since I've already found my standards, I'm just going to go ahead and hit criteria. So you can see it duplicates the point value, and all I'm going to need to change is the descriptors. So I am going to go ahead and speed through that now. All right, so I ended up just copying and pasting all of these same descriptors in, even though they're different for each standard, which you saw in this document. But in the interest of time, that's what I did. I do want to add a description. And so I'm just going to call this argument writing. Easy enough for the students. Argument analysis, and then grammar and mechanics. And in my mind, my type A mind, first the student would analyze, then they would rate, and then we would take a look at the mechanics. So I'm going to put them in order like that. Nearly perfect rubric, 99.9 points. So I need to add 1/10 of a point somewhere. I'm going to add it to the argument writing. That's what I'm most interested in, the writing. And so now I have a 100-point rubric, and I save by hitting create. And there it is in my resources. From here, I can start to move it to my courses. I'm ready to attach the rubric to some assignments, which means I need to get it from resources into my course. I'm going to use a course from Q4 of last school year. And so here's what you would do. So if I'm going to add materials, I'm going to import from resources. There's the rubric that I just created. I'm going to select it. I'm going to import, and now it is a part of this course. So if I were to add this to an assignment, I'll just find an assignment that I'll add it to. I'm going to find it, select edit, and the scale rubric. I'm going to open that up, and right down here at the bottom is that new rubric. I'm going to go ahead and select it and then save changes. And now it is attached to that assignment. Here's what grading looks like. So if I find that assignment, and so I can start clicking in whichever scores I want. And that's it. Thanks for watching.